Welcome to the Master of the NEC podcast, the ultimate destination for anyone passionate about the electrical trade. Whether you're a seasoned electrician, an eager apprentice, or just someone who wants to dive deep into the world of electrical work, you've come to the right place. Join your host, Paul Abernathy, a true authority in the industry with over 38 years of trade experience, as he electrifies your mind with in-depth discussions, expert tips, and valuable insights that will keep you ahead of the curve. Each episode, Paul will illuminate the complexities of the trade, decode the National Electrical Code, and share the latest industry trends, all while empowering you to take your electrical career to the next level. So, gear up, plug in, and get ready to supercharge your knowledge, because with the Master of the NEC podcast, the power is in your hands. Now get ready. Here is your host, Paul Abernathy.
Oh, what's up, everybody? Paul Abernathy here. Welcome to another episode of Master the NEC, where we talk about the National Electrical Code, all things electrical, just about any topic, anytime, anywhere, on any subject that is pertinent. Okay, so it's a big word for me. If you listen to the people on social media, it's a big word for me. And so today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of an after show from the live that we did last night with Inspector Preston. Very impressed with him. I mean, I've taught literally thousands of inspectors, probably more than that, when all the years that I was with teaching for NEC. And, you know, he is very impressive. Not just the way he answers, but his thought process. And you know what? It's always a challenge when you run into people that actually will do older homes, because again, there's a lot of things in an older home, and the home inspector immediately would like to just red flag everything to stand out and just cause all kinds of problems for the sale, but they may be legit. And so you've got to walk that fine line. And I think Preston does a great job of that. And I haven't seen any of his reports, but I'm typically a good judge of people, especially in the realm of home inspection. And it sure seems to me that he's got his stuff together. And so, again, I wish him all the success. He's obviously doing amazing on social media. I mean, he's over 500,000 followers. I'm not big on the follower thing. I think it's, my opinion on social media and in this quote influence. But actually, of the home inspectors that are in that social, whatever you want to call it, sphere, I think the one that you should follow is probably Inspector Preston. I think that he probably gives you the best value of knowledge than any of them, and most certainly more than some of them, right? Who are just doing nothing but inspecting new home builds that the municipal inspector should have caught the stuff before it made it to a home inspector. Or you're just doing a manufacturer of homes that just are notoriously creating shitty homes. That just about anybody could probably find the problem. But that's all right. I don't want to get fanned about fanboys, because I get enough of that hate. So anyway, we're going to talk about that a little bit today, a little bit about home inspectors. For anybody out there that's looking to become a home inspector, I'm not gonna recommend any association on this episode. Although I am a CMI, so I went through the NEC thing. But ASHI is great. NEC's great. I think there's nothing wrong with joining multiple associations, especially if you're getting into the business and you're wanting to gain knowledge, because again, there's different opinions, different types of training that you can get from any organization. So if you're looking to get into it, there's a lot of educational material. Now, NEC does have a lot of material. Now, the quality of the material lately, I don't know, because I don't watch it. And I haven't done any electrical training for them or refreshing anything from the first video that I did for them, which I look like a beached freaking whale. That was back, gosh, that's going to be close to 20 years ago. And I've lost about 90 pounds since then. So, but anyway, that being what it is, y'all don't watch that shit to look at me anyway. So still knowledge, the knowledge is still there. It's still the same content, it's still the same home inspection driven type of content. So I encourage you to look at all kinds of associations. But let's talk a little bit today. Maybe you're interested in getting into home inspection. and I'll give you my opinions on it because, again, I was one, and I taught a lot of them, and I'm associated with a lot of them as far as helping them and giving them insight and training. But I'll tell you, when it comes to electricians, there's usually a love-hate relationship. The first thing that out of an electrician's mouth is effed up home inspector or this piece of whatever home inspector. And you don't notoriously hear that the other way around, right? You don't hear home inspectors bashing electricians except when they get bashed by the home inspector. Home inspector seems to want to get all the attention and things like that. So, but at the end of the day, the electricians are the one that are usually whining and moaning and groaning about the home inspector. Usually not the other way around, except for some select home inspectors which try to be electricians and they're not. Okay? I'm just saying. Revelation. You do home inspections, stick to home inspections. All right. Anyway, I guess it doesn't get enough clicks. So whatever the click thing is, that seems to be the thing now. Social media. Boy, the more clicks you have, that means you're knowledgeable. Boy, that's so far from the damn truth. There's people that have millions of clicks and they're dumb as a rock. But people like their videos and they create neat content and people follow. That doesn't make them an authority by any means. But I digress. I don't need to go there. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about home inspections, why they're important. For me as an electrician and understanding the concepts of home inspection, so I'm speaking to you, electricians. I embrace the home inspector. Not all of them are created equal. Not all of them are great. Some are just mediocre. Some are poor. Same with electricians. We have the same problems in all trades. Some are better than others. At the end of the day, from an electrician standpoint, a home inspector brings me business. And if you're an electrical contractor and you're in the business to make money, you're in a business to make money. Okay? So if a home inspector brings you business, you should embrace that business. And if something they say is you disagree with, my advice really is not to badmouth them, not to bash to the customer. I mean, that we've talked about that in my soft skills. You don't need to do that to a customer. I mean, it's okay if you want to get, quote, angry on social media, but it doesn't work that way for the customer. Okay. Especially if they feel pretty loyal to the person, even though they were feeding them BS, they still have that loyalty element that you're going to have to break. And there's no sense in trashing somebody and running the risk of them getting a bad impression of you that you're going to have to overcome. It's just not worth it. So electricians, if you get a report, there's things on the report to fix. You know that they're BS, right? It's like calling it a double tap to a breaker when the breaker's designed to handle two conductors, but the inspector calls it a double tap. Okay, you know that that's not the case because the breaker's ready, but they don't necessarily know that. They just see two conductors to a breaker, and you're saying, well, they should know that. Well, they may not. Okay, they may not understand all the nuances because you got to remember, and I think I always have to reiterate this: home inspectors are generalists. The problem with some of them out there, the ones that want attention on social media, they go beyond the generalist and they try to get into the expert area, even argue with experts. And the reality is they look foolish in doing so, but they still got their fanboys that'll follow anyway and jump on that bandwagon and whatnot. I get it. It's fine. No big deal. But at the end of the day, if you're going to put yourself out there as a home inspector, then you should walk that generalist line and do it that way. But some of them, it's for the attention, for the glamour, for the fame, for the whatever they feel like it gives them on social media. They'll do certain things, and that's fine. That's fine. The real home inspectors, like Inspector Preston, which is unique because Preston has a social media presence, but he's the real deal as far as an inspector, and he does older homes. That's not that he's going to shy away from new stuff because I'm sure he'll take it, but he primarily in the area he's at are older homes. So he's going to come in contact with a lot of unique old stuff. And so he's going to have to make recommendations to the customer. And it doesn't automatically mean that in a report, you have to come off as an extreme alarmist. There's a tactful way to do it. And you can put something in that requires additional attention. And there's nothing wrong with that. if you really honestly feel that in your report, it's your duty to put that in your report as a home inspector. Now, as an electrician, I may disagree with something in the report, but I'm still getting paid to come out and look at it. And the vast majority of the electricians that bitch and whine about this, I don't understand it because you're still getting paid. Now, unless you feel like this, it's some kind of, I don't know, ethic thing. I mean, look, the home inspector's not fixing it. He's calling it out for you to evaluate it. There's nothing wrong. I mean, there's electrical contractors that do a lot of evaluations of electrical systems. That's all it is. And if it is something legit, you fix it. If it's not, you address to the customer and say, I get what the report said, but, there's a generalist and there's an expert. I'm the expert, and this is okay. Or, yes, they're correct. We need to fix it. Okay? Either or. But you can do it with professionalism and tactfulness. There is no part of me that thinks some of the social media home inspectors have no idea what tactfulness is. Because you can tell by how they post online. There isn't any tactfulness to it at all when you're working with a customer. So anyway, that's my thought on that. So home inspectors bring electrical contractors business. And I tell people all the time, so this is more service related when the home inspector brings the electrician business, because then a real estate agent or what happens is, I guess we should step back. For those that aren't familiar with it, when you get a home inspection, which is typically an option on every home sale, and if a home is sold multiple times, it's probably had multiple inspections. So you're thinking, okay, everything should have been caught in the other inspection. But again, not every inspector is at the same level. So some things get found. Some things people are more knowledgeable than others. Some people get licenses and they never continue their education other than the bare minimum they need to maintain their certification or license, which is never a good thing. You always want to be striving to learn more. Again, it takes time, it takes money, it takes commitment. I get it. It's like, I don't have that much time. Yeah, you do. You do. So anyway, when you think about it in those realms, who else is better to put their eyes on something multiple times during transactions than the home inspector? I mean, I'm an electrician. I'm not going to get in there. And usually you're not calling me until something's wrong. Take Philly Queso up there where he's at in Philly. I mean, by the time he gets called in, the shit's already messed up. But if he had a second set of eyes and other people that were looking at things during sales and transactions and all, and then they can refer them to him, then you go fix it. If it's nothing to be fixed, you just don't fix it. You say, there's no need for that. You gave your professional opinion and you move on, but you cash the check. People say that's dishonest. No, it's not. If the home inspector called it out and you're the electrician and they want you to evaluate it, you evaluated it. You should get paid for your time. A good example of this also, and my brother's a classic case of this. I love him to death. But, he doesn't feel right if he goes out to a call and it's, it doesn't, I was going to use the saying of an older person, but we're all getting rapidly old. And you go out and you just do nothing more than reset a GFCI. And he says, I just don't feel right charging them my minimum an hour rate. And that's him. And I get it. Me, I never had that problem. Because I know that overheads, burdens, costs of insurance, it's all broken down over how many times I have to turn that key in my vehicle to get to leave my office to go do something. Money's already being spent. So I need to at least recoup it. And I'm not in business not to make money. I mean, fuck. Why would you be in business if you're not making money? Okay. So anyway, in this scenario, you've got to charge. And I got my 1 hour minimum regardless of whether or not I fixed it in 10 minutes. But one thing that was different for me, and I say this a lot to electricians, I say that, you need to give them their hour. They're paying for it. You think, well, if I get in and out of there and I do a bunch of these and the money adds up and I spent less time. No, I don't. That's not the way I do business. You do whatever you want. Your business. I don't care. But that's not how I do business. I do business in a sense that they're paying for an hour. I'm going to give them an hour. So I'm either going to give them a thermal inspection. I'm going to give them a visual inspection. I'm going to offer to make recommendations, whether they want them or not. I'm going to give them that opportunity. If they say, no, I declined, then that's fine. I at least made the offer. And I'm also going to be very transparent. I'm going to say, look, you're paying a minimum of an hour. I fixed your issue in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is. But I owe you that hour. So while I'm here, I would like to do an evaluation of your electrical system to give you the peace of mind. Again, it's not pressuring you to do anything. It's just part of what we do because we feel like you're paying for an hour. We want to give you the hour. And you know what? You'd be surprised what other business you can get out of it, or the reputation that you build, or the rapport that you build. And you have an opportunity to educate the customer while you're there and all that good stuff. So there's ways to do it, and not every mom and pop is going to do it that way. I get it. But when you think of, kind of going back to home inspections, they're a set of eyes that we don't get to see stuff as often as they do, because every transaction typically going to have the option for a home inspection. And yeah, they may call out some things that are, that you might disagree with as an electrician. They might call out and you might say, that's fine. That's okay. That's okay. Their job is done. They moved on. Now it's your turn. And you don't have to bash the inspector. You can just go, in my professional opinion, this is not an issue. Now, they can choose who they want to believe or who they want to follow. Got to remember, home inspections, okay, I'll say this again, home inspections are optional. And the results of a home inspection are part of a negotiation, okay? So the seller and the buyer are in a negotiation to purchase, okay? So the buyer desires to have a home inspection. The home inspection is done. They have a list of items that they would like to be addressed. I'm not going to say fixed because they need to be addressed, okay? They may need to be fixed, but they got to be addressed, and they've been identified by a home inspector. This is now given to the seller. The seller will pass this on to an electrician that they hire, or they can flat out deny it and say, I'm not fixing squat. Take it as it is. And then it will come back to the buyer to determine whether these things are easy enough to fix, or not a big deal, something that they can absorb. And the seller could say, you know what, I'm going to give you $1,000 towards fixing all these issues, but I don't want to mess with it. See, it's a negotiation. That's all it is. But an inspection is important because it finds things, and I was very impressed, and this is not always the case. I was very impressed with Inspector Preston's statement about thermography, because I tried. If you listen to the show, it's actually over on our YouTube channel. If you haven't listened or watched it, it's also available on Fast Track's Tube now for free. So you can go check out how our platform works over on Fast Track's Tube. You get to watch that for free over there, so you get to see how neat that app is, how neat that thing adapts to a mobile device, and it's pretty cool. Go check it out. It's worth it. Worth looking at. And at the end of the day, he believes in thermography. In fact, he owns 3 thermal imaging cameras. He's got as many as I have. And I teach this. I created a certification program. I have, I don't know if he has more. I got more than 3, but usually I have the lower grade ones to show people the difference in the pixels and the adjustments and all that. I mean, so I use it for that. But anyway, he does thermal imaging. And I don't know if we were offline, I asked him, I said, do you load these circuits? Because typically with thermal imaging, it doesn't do you any good unless you got some load going through it. And he immediately said, yes, he's got a little heater he brings in there. He plugs in to the circuits, and it'll heat up pretty quickly because it's a higher amp. So it's more like a little heater with resistive heater. And it's not going to take long if you've got a pretty good resistive heater that's pulling 12, 13 amps. It's not going to take long. And you could be doing other things, and you're checking these circuits. And you're there usually for 3 or 4 hours for home inspection anyway. So you're looking at something, didn't go check a circuit, then run back. I mean, you have to coordinate it. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but you have to coordinate it. But at the end of the day, the fact that he said that immediately lets me know that he understands thermography. Now, do you need to do, that's only electrical. When it comes to plumbing and running hot water lines and cold and looking for wet spots, which you need a moisture meter, because again, with thermography, blue, if that's what your palette is, blue, whether it's cold air, or blue, whether it's cold water, it's going to look essentially the same. Now you can notice with the air, it stays blue consistent, but with water, it starts to graduate or gradiate, or gradients starts to happen towards the ends, but you need a higher pixel camera to see that. But if you get good at it, you can tell. But anyway, the point was he did it. And then we talked about drones and incorporating the drone into your into your home inspection. And we got into we talking about the classification for a professional drone operator. I'm be honest with you, most home inspections, I would tell you, and I don't want to tell you to break the law, but I'm like, dude, you're just flying it over the house. Screw the licensing for it. Just don't share it on social media, whatnot like that. Yeah, I get it. Paul's telling you to do something, but at the end of the day, that FAA crap is a bunch of crap. It is a bunch of crap. Yes, I am certified. I do have a license because I used to share videos for drones on YouTube, which is a paid platform. It's my only paid platform. So at the end of the day, yes, I went and got it. But at the end of the day, I thought it was a crock of crap. Having to learn the classes of airspace and all that shit when you're just doing home inspections and you're just going to be looking at the roof a couple of feet off, it's total crock. But anyway, you do you. But at the end of the day, the fact that he did that was, tells me that this is a home inspector that spends the right amount of time on a job. It's not about getting in and getting out and doing as quickly and being so. We're in the world now where everything is so quickly. You watch electrical videos on social media and they're trying to cut a box in. It's almost like it's, like the OS where they're trying to, okay, let the timer go off. Beep. How quickly can I rough it in? It's almost like what happened to the skill, the work, the neat work. And it's just all quick. Now, granted, you can be neat and still be quick. I'm just saying, it just seems like that's a shifted focus. And I'd rather pay my technician to take the extra time to make it neat and accurate than trying to be so fast. But anyway, I'm strolling like I always do off topic. Home inspectors. So I think they bring a massive value to the industry. Good home inspectors. Bad home inspectors are just looking for attention and they're pointing out things that you probably could find yourself anyway. And so, it's the ones that have the experience. Now I can tell you right now, I will take a home inspector who does older homes over the ones that all they typically do day in and day out is the newer stuff. You know why? Because the codes were different back then. Things were different and you're looking for certain things. They know how to inspect heat exchangers. They know how to look for the thermal barrier. They know this stuff because they're used to dealing with older homes that weren't up to energy codes and things like that. So they've developed a knowledge of these things that they're looking for. Not the guys that do the D.R. Horton homes that are, that's a municipal inspector's issue if they're missing stuff, okay? They need to address that, okay? But especially in an industry where even the electricians in certain states don't even have good licensure or good requirements, that's kind of scary as well, okay? But anyway, so I think home inspectors bring an incredible value to the industry. I think they give electricians a set of eyes. I think they bring revenue to the electrician. I think that home inspectors can call out things. I do believe that you have to do things in a way that you're not an alarmist, unless it is truly something that's very serious. Now, maybe the fact that the vast majority of the inspection reports, and by the way, I did learn that Inspector Preston has an inspection software. Y'all might want to reach out to him if you're a home inspector and talk to him about software, because I believe he created some software that is, that again, who better to buy software from a guy who's been doing inspections for a long time and is very knowledgeable. So, I mean, dude, if you're a home inspector and you want a good reporting software, I'd check out Inspector Preston. You won't be hard to find him on TikTok or other social media platforms. In fact, you just Google Inspector Preston New York and you'll be able to find him and see what he's got. I don't know. We didn't talk about it, but see what he's got to offer if you're in that industry, home inspections. So kind of to summarize here, my thoughts on home inspectors. One, to all the electricians out there that'll be hating on home inspectors, look, they're not all created equal. I get it. Neither are all the electricians. All you got to do is spend a couple hours on TikTok, Instagram, whatever, and you'll realize that people post the dumbest shit and they don't even check it for violation. And I'm going to be honest with you. You are not a good electrician. You can be the best looking work in the world. You can run the best runs of conduit. You can do it all world. That doesn't make you a great electrician. I don't care what you say. I don't care. You do commercial only, doesn't make you better than residential. You do industrial, doesn't make you better than residential or commercial. You do service, doesn't make you a lesser of an electrician than anybody that does. It's all electrical. The electrons don't know any different. That's it. That's it. So at the end of the day, when you think about it, home inspectors bring value to every electrician as another set of eyes. And you know what? As an electrician, you're out there to correct the issues. But you don't have to flame things out so badly unless they are legit. So it means you need to increase your training. You need to think about how you report things on your report. If it's obviously a serious issue, you call it out, right? It's all relevant, but I think home inspectors bring an incredible value to the industry, the good ones. The bad ones can hurt the industry, okay? And so the good ones, and what hurts the industry is instead of the electricians embracing the home inspector saying they make me a lot of money, okay? Because that's how I think. They make me a lot of money, and I'm not here to justify what they put in their report. I'm just here to answer and give my expert opinion on the report that my client hired me for. I'm not going to bash the home inspector. I'm not going to say they suck or they don't need to be doing this or that. That is none of my customers' business. Zero. None of their business. All I'm here to do is give my opinion. That's it. And I think that's where people have a problem. The buyer and the seller are negotiating. The seller hires an electrician to look at the report that the buyer's inspector generated, right? And then they look at this report, and the electrician who's feeling like they have a fiduciary responsibility to the seller starts bashing the home inspector because they're part of a different party. You shouldn't be doing that. I'm telling you right now, electricians, you should not be doing that. Be professional. Just look at the report, address each item. If something looks really crazy, you can still address it tactfully and say, in my professional opinion, I don't think this is a concern you need to worry about. And I'll give you the language that you can reply back to the buyer with it based on your professional opinion. Now, if the buyer wants to take the home inspector's decision or over the electrician who's the professional, then that's between them. That's part of the negotiation. I don't get involved in that because the buyer's going to say, well, sure, the electrician would say that because he's representing the buyer. This is why I talk about integrity all the time when I say that as the electrician that's hired or as the inspector, I am not on camp anybody. I'm not on camp seller. I'm not on camp buyer. I'm an independent third party sent there to do an evaluation. I don't give a crap whether the person buys a home or doesn't buy a home. I don't care. And so when I walk into that situation, I make it very clear. I'm going to give you an opinion on what I see. That's it. I'm not going to sway it either way. Don't ask me to write something in a certain way that's more persuasive. I'm going to be professional in my report. And I expect the electrician to do the exact same thing. Sadly, that's not what we see. And that is why the industry gets tainted. Because the vast majority of electricians will make derogatory comments about home inspectors. But we're starting to see a lot of electricians like Terrence. Terrence comes to our coffee hours. He's been a follower a long time. Last night in the chat, he made it clear that he says, dude, I don't say anything. I make good money from the home inspectors. Absolutely. That's the mentality you need to have. Don't need to bash them. Just answer and address the questions professionally. That's why I recommend TradeHog, because you can write something out, then you pop it in TradeHog and ask it to translate it into something more professional. It'll keep it technical, and it'll give you a translation. It's really the office hog, which is the back end that you use for things like that. But the point is tactfulness. Okay, you don't need to be an alarmist unless it's truly something to be alarmed. And maybe the home inspector just doesn't know, and he is an alarmist because he or she just doesn't know. Well, that's where you need to get more education. Okay, more education in what you do. And it takes me back to the beginning of this podcast, the associations. The associations have training. They need to do better if you feel like they're lacking. But I think they do a pretty good job, whether it's ASHI or NEC or whatever. I think as far as an association, I think that all home inspectors should at least take the National Home Inspector exam. I believe every home inspector should take that and pass it. I passed it. I believe everybody should pass it, regardless of the association you're in, regardless. Because it's a pretty tough little test for home inspectors, and you need to be tested. I'm serious. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Hopefully you enjoyed something in today's podcast. Take it away from you. Again, electricians, stop bashing home inspectors. Home inspectors, stop bashing electricians. Home inspectors, be very tactful in your reports and be very professional. Electricians, just answer what they put. Don't interject your personal feelings into it. Just address it and give your personal opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. It's okay to disagree, but you don't need to embellish it. Stop bashing. Stay professional. Okay. And people say, wow, Paul's saying that with the crap he says on social media. That's right. Because I'm neither the electrician or the home inspector. I'm just a talking head on the internet. That's it. So I can say what the hell I want to say. All right. All right, folks. Till next time, stay safe. God bless. And we'll catch you on another episode of Master the NEC. Take care.
Thanks for tuning into another electrifying episode of the Master the NEC podcast. We hope you're feeling more powered up and ready to tackle the electrical world with the knowledge and confidence you need to succeed. Remember, in the electrical trade, knowledge is power, and we're here to make sure you stay plugged into the latest insights, tips, and code updates. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share the podcast with your fellow electricians and industry pros. Until next time, keep your tools sharp, your circuits clear, and your mind focused, because here at the Master the NEC podcast, we're all about sparking your success. Stay safe, stay smart, and keep mastering the trade. From all of us here at Electrical Code Academy, thank you for all your support, and we will see you on the next amazing Master the NEC podcast episode.